welcome back to the HCW YouTube channel. My name is RateWrestle, and today we've got something special. So I wasn't able to attend the recent Kamikaze Pro show due to other commitments, but by popular demand, not by mine, but by everyone else, I'm forced to do this. We've got the Inquisitor Alex Connors. How are you doing?
Hello, yes, I'm very well indeed. Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, my review of the last Kamikaze show is the most popular video on your channel, right?
By a long way, yes.
And yet you couldn't find time to send somebody to the show that I was at to try and extend your brand and your popular. That's fine. I'm sure you know best.
Yeah, we don't know best. We have no one except me in the area.
Now, I can't imagine why anyone would have stayed watching your channel from my last video till now. So for those who don't know, this is not my house. Don't ask me about anything in the background. I am here because me and my beautiful girlfriend live a minimalist lifestyle. So instead, I'm here at my friend Heather's house. Say hello, Heather. Now go away.
Yeah.
And if you are, for some reason, a regular viewer of HCW, that was a girl.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. Yeah, that's... So, so we'll go into the review. So it was Kamikaze Pro Live 31. It was at the Collingwood Centre, and it was on 10th of February, and obviously I wasn't there, so you'll have to correct me, because I'm probably going to be wrong. It kicked off with Man Like Darice versus Nate Riley.
Yeah, like your review last time, let's not rush past the setup of the venue, because we had another jam-packed venue for Kamikaze. For those of you who know the Collingwood Centre, who maybe just couldn't make it this time, there's a huge stage, a massive entranceway that takes up one whole side. But normally the crowd surround the other two sides with the entranceway here. This time we had to have a whole wedge here and a whole wedge here. We had 5 sections of crowd around the ring because, once again, these Kamikaze Pro live shows keep getting better and better, and they keep getting busier and busier. So if you are ever near one, I'd recommend getting to them where you can still get vaguely a seat near the front, because they're busier every single time, as you do remember from Stetchford.
Yeah, no, it is very jam-packed, and this technically won't be a breaking news, because this video won't be out till Sunday, but they will be announcing a match in 2 minutes' time, so I'll pop that in the middle of the review for the next show.
Yep, and you'll do your duty, I hope, to announce the time and place of the next show when that happens.
Yeah, I nearly missed that last time, didn't I, as well? It was a bad time. Anyway, let's... So, yeah, we'll kick off. So, Man Like Darice versus Nate Riley.
Yeah, you're correct. This was the opener, a perfect match to open a show, because they're both high speed and very athletic individuals, and they were both so crisp and clean on this night, which is a huge benefit for Nate Riley, because he is somebody who is in only his 3rd show. He's done a Rumble, he's had 1 singles match, so he's really got a lot of pressure here against, as we all know, not just one of Kamikaze's best, but one of the UK's best. This was an impressive match from both individuals, because everyone was so crisp and clean, but it felt like Darice was always that one step ahead. He had the experience, and it almost felt like Darice was saying, you know, it's a good attempt this time. I'm looking forward to facing you again, because you've got a little bit to learn. But the heart and soul of Nate Riley carried this through to being a very close and competitive match. It ended with a fairly definitive powerbomb from Darice, but it wasn't his first attempt, and I've got to give credit to Nate Riley for surviving as long as he did in there with, again, not just one of Kamikaze's best, but one of the UK's best.
Yeah, definitely. Like, from what I've seen of Nate Riley, like, he's improving every time you see him, and judging by what you've said there, he is getting there. But obviously against someone like Man Like Darice, who is now moving from the UK to international basis as well, you know, that's a very tough opponent to go against.
And what a lot of faith it shows in Kamikaze, in Nate Riley. I think if you would be booking this card yourself, if you were trying to set up your own show, you'd probably be surprised to see the announcement of Nate Riley versus Man Like Darice. But it shows that they have a lot of faith in it, and that's a huge benefit for someone. It's got to give him a lot of confidence, even though he didn't come away with a win. It's got to be very exciting. And at the end of the day, I think he proved them right with a really close and competitive performance. Hugely athletic. The only thing I can apologise for is this match. I was getting ready for my own match. This is probably the match I didn't manage to see every single minute of. And since you guys decided that it wasn't worth sitting someone in the crowd to have another hugely popular video like last time, we maybe don't have every single moment of it down. But Nate Riley, he definitely showed he was tough today, and that might come up later again.
Okay then. So yeah, from what you've discussed, that it seems like a very competitive match, and said it would be future's right for Nate Riley. So according to as I said, I'm getting a lot of this review from Cage Match. I tried to avoid the finish.
Actually, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
For once, not your fault for once. But I'd just like to say what an exciting race we have. Nate Riley had a fantastic show. Fantastic show. This show did not feature Edgar Adams. Let's talk about the fact that these two are probably the two pillars so far of the Kamikaze Dojo 2.0. And the reason it didn't feature Edgar Adams, he was announced, as you would have seen, and you probably have mentioned on some of your reviews or some of your podcasts, but he was injured, an ankle injury. He worsened it. He tried to fight through it. It didn't pay off. He really didn't want to miss this, but by trying to train through it, he actually worsened it, and he had to take some time off. Yeah. Those two, they look like they are set to be, even though they're both fan favourites, on the race to be the face of the Kamikaze Dojo 2.0. And I think that could be quite a competitive rivalry, even when they're not against each other, just seeing which one of them can pick up their first major win, which one can pick up their first title, which one can go to the next level. And I'm really excited to see that race for the face of the Kamikaze Dojo 2.0. Edgar Adams, you'd have thought maybe was in the lead. He did debut a show early, and he's had two more fantastic showings. But then he is out with injury here, and all of a sudden that could go any direction. And so exciting for the Kamikaze Dojo to have these two fantastic students showing their skills.
Yeah, and I believe Edgar was on commentary, wasn't he, for the show, from what I saw?
For the first half he was. Thankfully, the second half, the commentary team improved vastly. It gained a lot of experience. It gained a lot of good looks. It became a lot funnier. It became a lot more charismatic. It became, quite frankly, one of the best commentary teams in this country because I took over in the second half from Edgar Adams. Not because Kamikaze asked me to. I just went out there. I kicked him off his chair because, quite frankly, I've been doing this a lot longer. And didn't I just beat him at the last show? He did seem a little bit annoyed about it, but thankfully that huge cast around his ankle meant he had to know his place and go sit at the back, and I commentated the second half.
That's fair enough, and we'll take a slight break from the event. As I said, Kamikaze have just announced their first match for the Sunday from March 12th show at the Setchwood Social Club. It's going to be George Lyden facing Nate Riley, which is...
It is indeed.
It's an incredible matchup, that is.
It is, and he earned his way there, which we'll discuss not too distantly in this very episode, with some fantastic performances later on. So Nate Riley, not to be disheartened by a loss to Darice. We all lose to Darice in this country. He's one of the hardest men to beat. Yeah. In fact, Nate Riley has got himself a hell of an opportunity. And, well, judging by this show and how much he surprised everyone, he might well pull up another upset and upset George. We'll find out.
Definitely. So moving on from that, according to this, it was Ryan Parrot versus the first time we've seen Brandon Jordan demasked in the show.
Yes, Brandon Jordan, actually. Officially Brandon Jordan, not the Kamikaze Kid. This was an interesting thing because the crowd got to get used to him again. They still had their full support, you felt, but I imagine when he was getting ready in the back, he probably felt a little bit different. He probably felt a little bit nervous. Are the crowd going to support me the way they supported the Kamikaze Kid? And am I going to have the same success without that mask to hide behind? A lot of people probably can't imagine what it's like wrestling under a mask. It's harder to breathe, it's harder to see, but at the same time, it covers your face and your emotions, which can be hugely disorientating for your opponent. It's far easier to play possum, something that the Kamikaze Kid was quite good at, but also it's far harder for your opponent to judge what to capitalize on when you're injured, when you're hurt, and how best to put you away, because they can't see the reactions. So it was a whole new experience for Brandon, and a fantastic one. The match started with Brandon Jordan evading everything from the bigger, more powerful Ryan Parrot. For those who don't know, Ryan Parrot towers over Brandon Jordan. But eventually he did catch him in a sidewalk slam. He went to work with just a strong beatdown. Seemed to be like always going to be it for Brandon Jordan, but he showed the heart and fire that he's always shown as Kamikaze Kid. He came back hot and fast with his typical offense, but he was caught from a springboard power slam to the mat. It did look like that would be the end of it for Brandon Jordan. Gut wrench suplex hit later on from Ryan Parrot, and this was mainly down to the fact that Brandon couldn't lift Ryan himself to try and mount a comeback. And then, to be honest, I thought maybe Brandon Jordan would be a definitive winner in this match, but he actually managed to just sneak one out from under Ryan Parrot. Ryan Parrot went for the choke slam. As he lifted him up, Brandon turned into the wheelbarrow, rolled it through into a victory roll, 1-2-3 out of nowhere. And the first win, although also the 100th win for Brandon Jordan, and well earned.
No, like Brandon's very, very impressive. And it's nice to see that he's getting not the opponents deserves, and obviously Ryan. I do enjoy seeing Ryan fight. He seems to be getting on the he's on a losing streak in Kamikaze. He doesn't really pick up the wins.
He is, and in fact, there's more to this story. Ryan Parrot, not the announced opponent. That's actually Will Stevens, who was the announced opponent. Ryan Parrot gets thrown in due to Will Stevens being unable to attend for the whole weekend, not just tonight. Will Stevens had to pull out for the whole weekend, and it did mean that Ryan was thrown in at the last second. You've got to feel then that he was feeling a little bit of desperation. Because, like you say, a losing streak, you're not on this show. It feels like things are going one way and you really want to turn that around. So despite Brandon Jordan wrestling without the mask, I felt like the pressure was all on Ryan, and that may have well been the reason he didn't come away with the victory. A second reason as well, Ryan was there ready to hop into any gap. He was there as an alternate, which happens at a lot of wrestling shows. Fans may not know this, but there's usually a few alternates if something goes wrong. Now, Brandon Jordan, he's been preparing for Will Stevens all week, and Will Stevens and Ryan Parrot are not too dissimilar. In fact, they teamed together at the last show, and they're both big, they're both brawlers. Apart from a little bit of an attitude, as I said before, Ryan maybe likes to play with his food a bit more, but to be honest, when he steps in as an alternate, he was probably quite down to business as well. Apart from that, they have a very similar style. So Brandon Jordan didn't have to change his preparation this week, whereas Ryan Parrot, he didn't prepare this week. He didn't know who he was going to get. He prepared for anyone at any spot. And Brandon's such a unique and interesting competitor that unless you really have a target on him, and that's what you've been preparing for all week, you are going to get caught out. And that's exactly what happened.
Okay. And then after that, it was Kieran McQueen versus Samuel Hughes. So this was the match. So Kieran McQueen came in as an early announced alternate, because obviously Edgar Adams had to withdraw due to the injury. And this is pretty much or if I remember, they were both part of the, because this was prior to you being in Kamikaze, Heroes Next Door. It was kind of like they did tag team a lot, but Samuel Hughes has decided to go down a bit of a dark path. But fair on him, he keeps up picking up wins. I'm not sure what happened in this match, but I'll take that over to you.
Yeah, and well done for actually doing your part and bringing up some Kamikaze history. First things first, well done to Kamikaze for presenting this show, which as far as I'm aware is filled with almost entirely first-time one-on-ones. I know this one was because they were previously a team, but so was Brandon and Ryan here at Kamikaze. So was obviously Nate and Darice. So this show all the way through with first-time matchups. So that's a huge well done to Kamikaze as an organisation. And let's throw a well done out to Edgar before we forget for missing the show, but still going out on commentary and learning everything. Yeah, he missed his opportunity to be in this match against Sam, but for the first half of the show, he was sat in the best seat in the house, and for the second half, he was sat at the back, but he had his notes on him, and he was learning. He was still making the most of his opportunity tonight. It's really relevant you brought that up, because this match began with friendship. Sam has gone down a dark route, as you say, but it seems like he still harboured some feelings, some caring, some bond with Kieran McQueen. They started with a handshake. They started with some grappling around the ring, helping each other up, takedowns, very fair amateur-style matchup in the early goings, both with Kieran and Sam helping each other back to their feet and getting back to this fair grappling style. Eventually, Sam lost his temper. He resorted to a similar thing with Chantel.
Yeah.
He slapped Kieran across the face, and Kieran fired up. Kieran did not feel like there was any place for that in this match, especially with the history these two had. When he fired up, Sam, that's when he realised, okay, these new tactics, they've been very successful for me so far, and they have.
Yeah.
Sam's win-loss record has gone through the roof since he's decided to ignore the Kamikaze crowd. He cowered behind the referee, some might say. Others might say strategically placed the referee during Kieran's rage and used that to gain the advantage. So it helped him to ignore the crowd and play whatever he had to. This showed up once again, and I spoke to Sam myself. There are two different stories, but the end of this match, he had used that for his advantage, but Kieran, that anger, the annoyance at having been betrayed by his friend, it came back in the second half of this match. And just like that, a house of fire, bang, bang, bang. He hit his Northern Lights bomb, very near fall for Kieran McQueen. A lot of people did think that would be over. And I'd like to say well done for Kieran for really defining his offense this year. He's added a lot of big signature moves that I feel were lacking from his offense last year. Last year, he would mainly be a roll-up, this classic suplexes and slams that we all do, and trying to win with just a quick pinfall. This time he's added some big hitters. He's got the cookie cutter, if you've not seen that, a fantastic finisher, and the Northern Lights bomb, which has put people away but didn't put Sam away. So Kieran decides he's going to have to take it to the next level. He climbs to the top rope, and then entirely by accident, I'm informed by Sam, but the crowd seemed to think this was on purpose. Sam staggers out of the way into head referee laws. He hits the ropes. Kieran falls crotch first onto that top turnbuckle, and Sam, over the shoulders, just like we saw last time with Chantel, plants him with that reverse tombstone type maneuver, and 1, 2, 3. Sam, yet again, since his change, another win.
Yeah, he's on fire, Sam. Like he's learnt, as you said, like take away from him trying to be a fan favourite, and now he's picking up wins. The fans didn't help him pick up wins, and now he's doing it any means necessary. Like as you said, he may have just slipped into the ref, or he may have decided. We'll never know.
Who are we to say?
Yeah, who are we to judge? If he wins, a win's a win. But Kieran and McQueen, just to go on, he's been very impressive recently, what I've seen from him, and he's been around the Kamikaze for a while, but I think this will be his year. Where he kind of
and this is really just a trading of wins-losses from the last show, where Kieran's tandem, he picked up a win. So, yeah, for Kieran, it's not the end of the world. He's not on that precipice like someone like a Ryan, who might be really struggling to find those wins, just this time didn't come away with one. And Sam continues to go up and up and up.
Excellent. So we'll move on to a match that I've heard rave reviews about, I'm going to be honest. So, Jutler, I've always described him kind of like the gatekeeper of Kamikaze. Like when originally Prior was always fighting the imports, everyone was coming in. Every big star that was coming into Kamikaze, he had to fight Jutler before they fought anyone else. And he was against the Inquisitor, Alex Connors, who, I'll be honest, you have been on a roll yourself. Very, very impressive matchups. Like, as I said, I'm a big fan of yourselves. But, like, how did you think this match went?
Yeah, thankfully I did manage to see all of this match from inside the ring. I've actually gone and done you a favour because I knew you were away, and I'm a kind and caring person. I've rated it, so you could add it to your little spreadsheet. Yep. 5 stars for this one. 5 stars. So you can add that.
I'll do that while you're out.
Yeah, let's talk about Jutler, and you probably know even more than me. He's been on a tour with Dragon Gate. He's toured Europe. He's been everywhere in the world. He's insanely powerful, bodybuilder build, and we know that's not just an exaggeration. He's done that as well, but also freakishly athletic. Yeah. Backflips, handsprings, nip up, whatever you can think of, front flip off the top, he can do it all. So he is one of the most complete athletes in all of wrestling, not just in the UK, but in all of indie wrestling for sure. And he is a fantastic competitor. For myself, this was a huge step up. Kamikaze has put me mainly with their dojo trainees and make a name for myself. And as you say, a huge run of wins for me. So I think I've proven that I am now ready for the top of Kamikaze. And this was a very intense, very interesting match. Started off with the crowd getting a few laughs in, which really isn't necessary, especially not at my expense. They seem to think that Jutler might have a bit of a cardio edge on me, thanks to our respective physiques, but I can go all day. They really don't need to worry about that. And Jutler looked like maybe he wasn't taking it seriously, because he knew even less about me than I know about him. I might be fairly new to Kamikaze, but I know who Jutler is. For him, he's really trying to focus on his international tours. And although he knew I'd been around, I don't think he'd ever sat and studied the footage. So that meant that this turned into a brawl that went through the crowd after the fun and games were over from Jutler. And I do think maybe the crowd got involved a little bit too much. I think you might find some pictures of me having my arms held back by the crowd. Ridiculous. Definitely a DQ. I'd like to see some faster refereeing in the future. And it also involved what I think many would say the moment of the night. Unfortunately for me, I tried to get a bit of revenge for this and throw K into the crowd. He reversed it, the crowd moved, and I hit about the 5th row. Didn't know that I'd hit the 5th row. I thought it was the 2nd row. And then when I got my bearings and looked up, there was 4 rows of chairs that way and another 5 or 6 rows that way. And I realised I was into the 5th row and surrounded by people in what was only described as quite a crash disaster of my landing. This brawl continued over to the merch stand across the desk at the back before when we got back into the ring where a wrestling match should be, and I finally managed to get the upper hand. A few near falls, Michinoku driver from myself, as well as double stomp to the back of the head, 2 very close near falls, but eventually K, despite missing a moonsault and for all intents and purposes looked like he was out, he managed to just dodge out of the way of my Shining Wizard and hit a Falcon Arrow for the win. And as you say, the gatekeeper of Kamikaze, he knew that he'd had a great match because he knew he'd had a great opponent. He came over at the end and he showed a lot of respect to me. I didn't need it, and I did not show it back. I'm not here to shake people's hands, but he showed the respect my way, the way it should be, and that's how the match ended.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that on demand, I'm going to be honest. I said, I've heard reviews from myself, but a lot of people there have mentioned that was definitely the match of the night.
Twitter seemed to agree. It was blowing up for days after.
So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that one. And it'll be nice to see what's next for Alex Connors.
Yeah, well, I felt like that was my performance so far in Kamikaze, my best performance. Didn't come away with the win, maybe because I just didn't do enough research. I am, as you're aware, a very busy wrestler. I'm wrestling every weekend, not just at Kamikaze, shows all the time. Probably should have done a bit more videotape study on Jutler because he's a freakish athlete and he managed to prove that with both strength and athleticism and toughness, which was really the thing that caught me off guard right at the end. But nonetheless, that's a confident, for me to say, great showing for myself, and hopefully that's really made waves and been taken note by the Kamikaze management, and they won't just feed me their dojo trainees to get eaten up anymore. They'll start giving me exciting and new opponents.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. Next up, was that the first half main event? Was it, just to confirm?
It was, of course. How could anything possibly follow that?
It would have been a struggle, I'm going to ask.
That's when we got a fantastic change of commentary. So for those of you who didn't go to the show, not only do you have to watch a great show, but also you've got to get on demand so you can hear some insight and keen wit on the commentary table.
Excellent. So first match of the second half, we had Chantel Jordan versus Hassan Ali. So Chantel obviously is always on a tear in Kamikaze, and Hassan has been very much like win loss kind of. I think his last match, I might be wrong, is he lost to Samuel Hughes at the a dart match prior to the Kamikaze show.
Think that maybe 2 matches ago. I think his last match was teaming with Kieran McQueen to defeat Ryan Parrot and Will Stevens, perhaps.
No, I've just checked. Yeah, so that was in November, and then that was 2 weeks later. The Sam Hughes Hassan Ali, but it was a dark match, so we'll go with that anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, I spent all of my December up the Slovakian mountains, really searching the soul, having a peaceful retreat. I wasn't here for any of December, so not always aware of the shows that go on there. Some of us have a higher purpose that we need to achieve. This match, let's talk about it, because what an exciting match. And for my opinion, despite coming out on the losing end, Hassan Ali's best match. This was interesting because the crowd were obviously split, both fan favourites. In my opinion, Hassan Ali uses that crowd. He survives on that crowd. He thrives on that crowd. Chantel Jordan, the crowd support her because she's that damn good, not because she needs them. So I thought Hassan would be at a huge disadvantage going into this match. To start off with, it was a little bit back and forth. Hassan used the strength. He looked like a bit of a bully for the first 30 seconds to a minute, but Chantel then looked like she was going to outclass him and put him away. And here's where Hassan really impressed me. He got the crowd on his side, but he also fought through that adversity, and he came back as a house on fire, big clotheslines, big suplexes, and then really, at the end of quite a flurry, Hassan hit his spear. One of the best spears. He's got the strength to completely take you off your feet. It feels like you're being hit by a bus. And I was convinced that was going to be it. And it was a 1, a 2, and a 2.999. So, hugely upsetting for Hassan. This is one of the few matches that is a repeat one-on-one. They faced each other in 2018. And back in 2018, you've got to assume this was fairly one-sided in Chantel's way. This match was almost a complete 180 with Hassan. He fought through so well at the end. He did a fantastic job. And all that happened was he made one mistake. Instead of following up with something to keep Chantel off guard, he went for a second spear. Don't go for the same move twice on someone as experienced as Chantel. She countered it, and a few kicks to the head later, she put Hassan away. But an absolutely fantastic match that had me out of my seat on the commentary desk.
No, that's always good to hear. And like, I thought when you were going to mention, because Hassan recently, obviously with his influence, his internet fame and so forth, he's been focusing a lot on Prime, the drink. And that has distracted him in matches, but you didn't mention it at all, so I'm assuming he was more focused on Chantel in this match, which is good to hear.
He definitely was. Prime did make one brief appearance, and there is some controversy here. So, after the match was over, Chantel Jordan, Hassan Ali, they shared a Prime in the ring. Hassan, he'd brought one for Chantel, he'd brought one for himself. The old chink friends. And they'd had a great show, and it was really good to see the mutual respect between them. Just before he hit his spear, he called to the commentary desk for a sip of Prime. I'm not giving it to him. Yeah. I'm not throwing that in. But next to me was sat a man you may know, a man by the name of Carl.
Yeah.
And he did let Hassan take a quick sip of Prime. And this was literally, it wasn't the big distraction it had been in the past 2 matches. It was literally, Carl threw it, he caught it, chugged it, threw it back, re-energized, big spear. But Carl threw him the wrong Prime. It was not the flavour that Hassan was after. It was the one designated for Chantel. And maybe that's why the spear wasn't enough. But just as equally, maybe playing to the crowd to sip that Prime was the extra 0.1 second that Chantel needed to recover. So the Prime could have, one way or another, cost Hassan the match, even though he did leave it out all the way until his final maneuver, which I'm sure in his head was going to be the 1, 2, 3. So maybe that 1 second or the wrong Prime from Carl could have cost him his victory and his vengeance from 2018. So he went down again, and Chantel is 2-0 up in one-on-ones.
Yeah, so there you go again with Prime. More focused on the branding than the getting the job done. So we move on to a match. It did look very, very good on paper. Obviously, you were there to see it. Lucia Lee versus Luke Douglas. Very much the Luke's on the main shows, Lucia's on the main shows, so pretty much the stalwarts of the Kamikaze shows at the moment.
Yeah, huge change of pace in this match. Almost an uncomfortable watch. So Luke Douglas, he came to the ring, and as I've mentioned several times here, he's been around long enough to have a few supporters, to have a few fans in the crowd.
Yeah.
Yourself being one of them.
Yep.
Despite his rule-breaking ways, some people have just gotten used to him being a bit of a bad boy. At the start of this match, he, I think, burnt a lot of those bridges. Lucia, she went for a handshake. She was met with the one-fingered salute, which I will not do here. Not a man of my nature. I will not repeat it. But worse than that, the first half of this match was a beatdown from Luke Douglas. Lucia was fighting from beneath the entire time. She wasn't getting very far with it. There was not a lot of wrestling. There was not a lot of grappling, not a lot of holds. There was purely a pissed off, it seemed, Luke Douglas beating down Lucia Lee. And it looked, for all intents and purpose, that Lucia Lee was going to end up with one of the most humiliating defeats of her career after being absolutely battered. It was a one-sided affair. Now, on commentary, and again, I'll repeat it here for those who don't know, she gave quite an emotional, passionate speech at the last Kamikaze show. And I knew that was going to light quite a fire under her, because she ended up losing that match to Gaia Hox. And you've got to imagine that's kind of embarrassing and frustrating if you come out. And she'd said how Kamikaze had really saved her. It had been her home for a while. And this is one of the few crowds that she really respected. Lucia, again, wrestling all over the country, up and down. Doesn't always get a warm welcome, but Kamikaze is her home. It's a place where she loves the crowd and they love her. And if it wasn't for that, this could have been a 5-minute beatdown. But you could clearly see she had that passion. She was fighting from below, and she was gritting her teeth and fighting through the pain. And it eventually culminated in what was six Saito suplexes back to back from Lucia. Just first one out of desperation, second one just still clinging on, and then the final 3 I felt maybe out of anger and frustration at the beatdown that had happened so far. Now, at that point, this match was back to even Stevens, and we had a neutral starting point. Both people were down, and it looked like things were going to get faster. It looked like people were going to aim for the finish with their big moves. We had some attempts. We had Luke Douglas with this absolutely beautiful twist-out double unhook, one of my favourite moves on a Kamikaze show. And it was building nicely until Lucia Lee escaped the shoulders of Luke Douglas. She went to hook him up for a move. He went for a victory roll. And the other sides to the referee, what I'm told, other side to the commentary booth as well. So this is what I'm told. Second-hand account. Luke Douglas hooks the ropes with both arms and uses that to get rather a cheap win in a match that was building to an incredible crescendo. And yeah, that's what I'm told. I'm sure he might disagree. He might have said that pin was clean as a whistle, but the crowd on that side, they seemed very frustrated. They seemed angry. Lucia's reaction looked like she knew she'd been robbed, and unfortunately the referee just didn't see it. And that's really a great match that I'd love to see again at Kamikaze, and I'd love to see it again with a legitimate clean finish, because it was a fast and interesting end to what had been a gritty and very uncomfortable to watch opening half.
Yeah, and like I said, it may have been a dodgy finish. We'll be able to see that on demand when it comes out. Kamikaze always gets the close-in footage, so we'll see if Luke did cheat or it's all just lies. I'm going with lies.
Yeah, some very close-up footage. In fact, I had to move the cameraman out of the way during my match, so whoever's on roaming cam, you better be careful.
Yeah, and it might have been a hindrance to you, that, you know.
It's probably the only reason I was unsuccessful, if I'm honest. Well, I say that. We all know the real reason, and it was clear from the opening of my match that the referee was biased. He did the introduction for my opponent. The referee.
Who was the ref?
Mr. Laws himself.
He did the introduction.
he did K Jutler's introduction. Can you believe it?
That's outrageous. That is. No, yeah.
Definitely not an impartial referee there. Definitely not. And that's the only real reason why I couldn't come up with a victory in the end.
Outrageous. So we were on to the Kamikaze Pro live title match. So reigning defending champion George Lyden against MJ Grayson. So previous show, it was MJ, Man Like Darice, and George Lyden. MJ was pretty much bitter about that he shouldn't even had to have a triple threat due to Man Like Darice was eliminated in the Roulette Rumble the prior time, but then it was Carl, I believe. Carl got bullied into throwing the getting Man Like Darice back into the match because I believe Luke Douglas did eliminate him originally, and it ended up causing MJ Grayson to end up having a triple threat match rather than a one-on-one matchup. So Kamikaze granted him a deserved one-on-one matchup, I'll be honest, against George Lyden.
Yeah, very deserved. And that might be a surprise for those who were at the last show because MJ Grayson was the one to get pinned in the triple threat. But in my opinion, he is also the one who suffered probably the most double team offense from George and Darice. So it really wasn't a fair contest, and he really did win that Rumble fair and square. So I think this was a well-deserved setup. I do think this was the right call to give him a one-on-one match. He really struggled to face both competitors in the triple threat, and he won that Rumble, inserting somebody back into a Rumble, no matter how they're eliminated. It's just not the way things are normally done. So, yeah, I was really happy to see Kamikaze do the right thing and give him this one-on-one match.
Excellent. And so take it away. How did it go, Long?
One of my favourite performances from MJ Grayson, I think possibly his best match. And again, it's tough to say that for somebody who ended up eventually on the losing side. But for me, although he was double-teamed in that triple threat match, he was also a little embarrassed. He was outstruck by his opponents, and that's really his game. He's the ground and pound, he's the hard-hitting man, and yet, despite there being two opponents, I do feel like he was the weaker striker of the three in the triple threat match. It is clear to me he's been working on that. It's clear to me that the striking offense of MJ Grayson have been a focus from then all the way up till now. And he's been petitioning, as you mentioned, the whole time. So he probably knew, hoping at least, that this match would be his match at the next Kamikaze show. So he's had all that time to work on his striking offense. So that's point number one.
Yep.
Point number two. He got horribly hit with the 450 splash, if we remember. It was a devastating 450 splash, all knees, all on the ribs, crunched him into the mat. So he knew he had to avoid a 450 splash by any means possible. And both accounts, MJ Grayson really impressed. This match started with some ground-based wrestling, back and forth. It seemed fairly even. George picked up the pace and started to get an advantage, we should expect. And MJ Grayson focused on a leg, took it out, and the ground and pound was so much more precise, targeted, and hard-hitting from MJ Grayson. He really went to town on the ground and pound. His strikes were crisp, clean, fantastic work, and really impressive. Then the 450s came, and once again, MJ really on the ball. Not only was he taking out George's legs, he got his knees up on a 450, which looked horrible for George. He was moving out the way of them. And for all the world, it looked like MJ had got this figured out. Then we get to the finish of this match. Not only is George a very tough competitor, not only is George a high-flying competitor, he obviously hit some incredible moves in this match. He hit a tope con hilo that was, 2 or 3 meters away from the ring by the time he came down. He was bouncing left, right, and center. But George is an inventive competitor who adds new moves to his offense every single time you see him. This match ended when George managed to hit, for the first time, and I've known George his entire career, a Phoenix splash. MJ Grayson had to think he was safe. George is facing the wrong way. It's a moment's breather. He's going to be able to get out the way of all these 450 counters. George, with his back to MJ, the turn, the 450 in, a Phoenix splash, the first time George has ever hit one. connects with MJ Grayson and gets the 1-2-3. Fantastic match from both competitors.
Yeah, and it's good on George, because obviously MJ Grayson would be expecting him to hit more 450s, show that gets out, he's going to pick up the win. So to throw out a Phoenix Splash for the first time, MJ had no chance. He wouldn't have known that was going to happen.
George was going for that 450. He knew that's what won the match last time. That's what he was aiming for. He started looking to put him away with the 450 because it was successful at the last show. No one knew in the audience, or at least in the ring, that George had this Phoenix Splash in the arsenal. Maybe a couple of us who train at the barracks might have seen it, but who knew that it was ready to debut its first appearance on a show and to splat MJ in the middle of the ring. Such height, such twist and torque, really came down with a lot of impact that MJ wasn't ready for, and that's the end of the match.
And it's a high pressure situation to do it in a title match where you're a defending champion, to bring it out your locker out of nowhere.
Yeah, you've got to think that George has that in the back of his head. He's got to think, I'm going to face a lot of tough competitors here. If I can hold off, if I can keep this Phoenix Splash and not have to draw it out, if I can put MJ away with the 450, everyone's seen the 450, I'm not giving away any future tape research to a future opponent. But MJ was so prepared for the 450 and so on top of the ground and pound, especially on the legs, that as soon as there was a single opening, George had to reach down and pull it out. He probably didn't want to, probably wasn't a game plan for this match, but he had to reach in, pull out this new maneuver, and it was incredible to see. Obviously, anyone who hits a Phoenix Splash, always incredible to see, but George, such height, such a twist and a torque, slammed down, and no one's kicking out of that.
No, definitely. Like, what I wanted to bring up before we go to the main event, it sounds like it's been an exceptional card. Like, you've thrown out Nate Rowley's best performance. It's Kieran McQueen's best performance, your best performance, you stated. Hassan Ali. So everyone was picking up their game. MJ Grayson's best performance.
Yeah, and that's not just my opinion. Yeah. And quite frankly, I have been on here and said I thought people underperformed in the past. This was, from the opinion backstage, from the opinion I'd heard from Kamikaze management, and from the opinion of Twitter in general, the best pro live show that we've ever had. And just in my opinion, from what I've heard from my ear to the ground, in the past 6 months, these Kamikaze Pro live shows have gone to a whole new level. Does that really mean just because I've arrived? Seems like a coincidence that that's the past 6 months. But apparently, everyone has picked up in the past 6 months, and everyone has been on absolute fire, and this was a culmination. I do hope that it continues going upwards. I hope this wasn't the only culmination. Really exciting stuff for Kamikaze, really exciting stuff for the Pro Live brand. We always know that the Kamikaze Pro shows are phenomenal, but these Pro Live shows, they are obviously not as historic. They have really started to hit their own speed. They've really started to hit their own rhythm, and this was the best one. You've got to check it out if you didn't see it. This was the best one by a long way, but I do think that we're probably just in line for more and more best ones every single time we go out there. Everyone was on the ball, really impressive. The locker room atmosphere, obviously every person's going out there giving their best performance. That inspires the next person. You don't want to be the one person to underperform when everyone else is out there who's absolutely on fire. I felt sorry for anyone who had to come out after my match, but they were all absolutely on their best forms. Lucia, incredible performance. Luke Douglas, vicious performance. George, incredible with the Phoenix, and all the way through, he was so tough. MJ Grayson, his best performance. Yeah, stellar show, a stacked show. Kamikaze Pro Live is not to be missed. And for me, I've only appeared on a Kamikaze Pro Live. I feel like they are the regular ones. They're the things that are the lifeblood of Kamikaze right now, and they are really the place where it's all happening, and you really don't want to miss them. If you've enjoyed any Kamikaze Pro show in the past, Kamikaze Pro Live is just as good these days. You've got to get yourself to one and check it out.
No, definitely, and you said it will be on demand soon, so yeah, as you said, if you've missed that show like I did, I will go watch it on demand. So we're going towards the main event now. So it's the Roulette Rumble. For people that don't know what the Roulette Rumble variant, so if you know what a Royal Rumble is, you start with 1 and 2 in the ring, and then every minute or minute and a half so another entrant comes down. But the difference with a Roulette Rumble is the wrestlers don't know when they're going to be coming down, because the fans pick out their names of the wrestlers out of hat or whatever the item is at the time. So the wrestlers don't know what's going on, the fans don't know what's going on, and it's pretty much just let's see what happens kind of match.
Yeah, if you've watched a Royal Rumble from WWE, as I assume would be the most popular version, yes, they do draw numbers randomly, but they're drawn a day in advance sometimes, or sometimes on the night, but the Rumble's normally at the end of the night. So you have time to prepare and build yourself up. Most wrestlers have a routine before a match, not just for stretching, but also any number of superstitions that they might have. Here, you don't know until the actual 10 count begins and a fan puts their hand in and pulls a name at random when you're going to go out. It means you can't strategize. Normally, if you're in a Rumble and you know you're out number 10, you're watching 7 or 8 thinking, okay, I know what I could do here. If you're in a Rumble and you're not out till 30, you know, I don't even need to warm up for numbers 1 to 5. I'm going to take my time and pace myself. It adds a lot of stress, especially for the newer wrestlers, and I do think that probably impedes their cardio. It probably impedes their ability to really come out like a house on fire because they don't know when they're going to be, and they're so tense beforehand. Thankfully, I've been in 100 Rumbles. No tension here. But yeah, it's very exciting. It's a whole new challenge for the wrestlers, but the fans are the ones who benefit. This one was a very exciting Rumble. I can't comment on before my arrival, unfortunately, because I was, like I say, you don't know when it's going to be you. I was in the back, I was stretching, I was getting ready, I was warming up. And that's a real shame because we did see 2 debuts before me, and they were both out before I made my appearance. I was second to last, so that's not to say they were out quickly. That's just that I didn't get a chance to mix it up in the ring with them. Those are 2 more trainees from the Kamikaze Pro Dojo 2.0. We had JC and Maximus Okoro. Exciting prospects. Both looked apart. Both, you know, very big, very built. JC's very tall. Maximus looks more of an athletic, fast-paced style. But unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to mix it up with them. But the Kamikaze Pro Dojo 2.0 was very proud as through a few, what some people would say, upsets, Nate Riley managed to win this Rumble. He caught me off guard. He caught Luke Douglas off guard. He managed to get to the end. It was him and Luke Douglas the last 2. And to be honest, probably myself and Luke realised, well, he's already had a hell of a match with Darice earlier. He's probably not used to doing double duty. He's probably not going to be really as on the ball as we're expecting from him. And it cost us both. It cost me, it cost Luke, and it cost everyone in this Rumble because Nate Riley turned it on Luke at the last second. They were the final 2. Nate Riley picked up the victory. Huge upset, in my opinion, but an exciting one, not just for Nate, but for the Kamikaze Pro Dojo. And, well, it's going to be a huge step up for him as he faces George Lyden. Thankfully, a bit of preparation here because he faced Darice, and they are also a fast-paced, athletic type. So him and George, they should put on a very similar, fast-paced, athletic matchup. But George, obviously, vastly more experienced. I'd say George, bit better on the striking game. It's going to be a huge uphill battle for Nate Riley, but we've learned these past 3 shows that we've seen him that he never gives up. He's got the heart of a lion, and he could pull out the upset.
Yeah, anything is possible. So, as you said, the final 2 as well, it was a bit of a revenge for Nate Riley as well, because first singles match he lost to Luke Douglas. So that must have been nice for Nate as well. And now he's going to be facing George Lyden. So that's going to be on Sunday, March 12th at the Stetchford Social Club. Tickets are on sale at ringsideworld.co.uk. I'm doing it properly this time. Kamikaze Pro Live 32.
Good to see you finally getting better at your job as well.
Yeah, it's you bring it out on everyone. Yeah, that's what it is. You know, Jutler, you brought it out on him, you brought it out on me. You bring it out on the channel, clearly by the views. And we're happy to have you here. So that is the end of the review. It sounded like a fantastic show. It should be on demand soon. They normally release it like a week or 2 after the show is released. So I'll be checking that out.
I can't emphasize enough, this one is worth watching on demand because this whole show is really a lot of people's best matches and a really step up of the game of the Kamikaze Pro Live. If you're going to go to the next one, if you went to the last one, or if you just want to see a good show, no matter where you are in the world, this is well worth checking out. It was a really proud performance from everyone at Kamikaze, and for me, by a long way, the best Kamikaze Pro live show I've seen, and a huge promise for 2023 and every upcoming Kamikaze Pro live show. I'm really excited to see where they go next.
That's always good to hear. Yeah, so banging show, it sounds like. So as usual, follow us, the channel, like and subscribe. Alex's Twitter, Instagram handle has been below continuously. And I believe your Twitter handle is Mirrorcat.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Would you like to know why?
I have never asked this, so yes.
Yes, when I first started getting into wrestling, I lived in the United States of America briefly, and they can't pronounce the word mirror. They say meerkat.
Meerkat.
Mirrorcat. That's why it's Mirrorcat. I get asked that a lot, so hopefully your 12 viewers won't ask me again, and we'll have really cleared it up for every person who watches this, which I'm sure will be some.
So it used to be 12. When you're on, it's 14. So you've built ourselves up. So you said his Instagram's on the screen. If you want to see the previous video, we'll put a link into that. If you want a bit more Alex Connors on the channel, with the
it was tough this time. I didn't really get to correct you because you weren't there, because you guys made the foolish decision of not following up on the most successful video you've had by sending somebody to the best show in Birmingham. Instead, you decided to be busy with other shows. It was a busy weekend. I myself was wrestling multiple times. It's really good for Midlands independent wrestling that there were so many shows on that weekend, and not everyone could get to every show, and I do feel sorry but envious for the fans because they had such good choices all weekend long. But I'd have thought maybe you guys would have thought, let's follow up our most successful video with another one.
Yeah, but we had you here. That's all that matters. You've saved the show once again. So as usual, like and subscribe, follow Alex, follow myself, do the usual thing, get the tickets for Kamikaze Pro. They are ringsideworld.co.uk. So that is goodbye from me and from Alex. Adios.